Greetings, GameBreaker.tv staff. My name is Erik and I appreciate the opportunity to submit this to you as an application to become part of the Republic. Hello as well to all my internet friends. I hope you find something entertaining in watching this. That being said, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Big game player, big MMO player. Recently I've been playing WoW and Rift. I've been playing WoW since it's been in beta. Have a guild on there that I've run the whole time. As well, I've been playing Rift since it launched. Big fan of that game. I have a level 50 rogue at the moment that I've been playing around with. Also play many other types of games, consoles, computers. In fact, I'll play just about anything that isn't a sports game. Not very good at those. More than that, I tend to play games simply for the storyline or the lore behind them, so I don't find much of that in sports games. Favorite game of all time? XCOM UFO Defense. Dates myself a little bit there, but I still find myself going back and playing that one from time to time. Also, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've got the Star Wars shirt. I've read most of the books. Of course, own all the movies, even those that we don't necessarily consider to be very good. Have the Christmas special as well as the Muppet special. I myself enjoy the Muppet special quite a bit. Play the card game, Star Wars card games, play the role-playing games in several different formats. And I believe I have played every single video game launch for the Star Wars IP. I'd like to talk a little bit about the discussion of crafting in the Old Republic. Let me start by saying that I myself am a crafter. I enjoy crafting. I enjoy the social experience of crafting and giving back to the community, being able to help my guild by making items that people can use. That being said, I recognize that a lot of people see the item crafting professions as subpar compared to the gathering professions. This is for three reasons. Item crafters have little money-making potential compared to the time and effort of, say, the gathering professions. Also, there's little to no use during leveling compared to gathering professions. They don't make much money, they don't give me much benefit. Also, in most games, there's not a whole lot of end game use. Everyone needs potions, everyone needs enchants. Not many people need the armor that it takes me a lot of time and effort to make when they can just go run an instance and get better gear anyway. Other games have tried to come out with ways to solve this problem. WoW, for example, tried to fix the money problem by including things such as consumable items. We have leatherworkers got armor patches. Blacksmiths were given the ability to create sharpening stones. This didn't necessarily solve the problem, it simply gave us a way to make money as well. We were still making large piles of useless items that we were then turning around, giving to the vendors, had no use. Rift, on the other hand, for example, they decided to go about this by making the gathering professions a little different. In Rift, the gathering professions each provide 2 resources rather than just one. For example, a miner will get both ore as well as gems. The ore is used for making weapons and armor. The gems are used in enchanting and jewel crafting, though that's not what it's called in Rift. This did a good job of producing a lot more materials into the market, didn't solve the problem of having to create lots and lots of items that we then had to destroy, sell to a vendor, what have you, to get up to the point where we get useful items. I've seen other games do things such as making the items created much better, but soulbound. This helped the person crafting item, but still didn't give us anything to sell. So that being said, what I hope to see in the Republic is kind of a twofold answer to this problem. While leveling in the Republic, I would like to see items that hold their use better. The problem with creating items such as weapons or armor while leveling a character is you tend to outlevel the items. Most games in the current market have you leveling up very quickly to get to the endgame content, so by the time I gather the resources, I create the item, I've already out-leveled the usefulness of the item. Also, by the time I do quest items, the quest items are, or I do quests, the items I'm getting from the quests are better or at least as good as the items I'm crafting, therefore there's no incentive for me to actually craft. Older games, such as EverQuest or even Dungeons & Dragons Online, for example, you stayed a level for much longer. So when I crafted a piece of armor, I used that armor for a lot longer. This tended to make these crafted items much more useful to the players. So what I would like to see is a situation where I craft a piece of armor, I wear that armor for several levels, maybe 5 levels. By the time I've reached the end of that 5 levels, gathered new materials, I have a new pattern that allows me to make a new item that I can wear for the next 5 levels. Difficulty in this is the quest items we're getting a lot easier to acquire. They take less time. Only way I can see to solve this problem is if we were to turn around and make the items that I'm creating through crafting much better. Not to the point where it's game-breaking, but at least give it the idea that I can quest, get the quest items, turn them in. That's fine, I can level through the level, get to the endgame if I want to. However, if I'm twinking or even just wanting an easier experience for myself, I craft the item, I wear the item because it is better than the quest items I'm getting. I then have the incentive to continue crafting, make better gear for myself, so I always have slightly better equipment. Rift sort of did this. Another game that sort of did this was Dungeons & Dragons Online. Anything you made in that one tended to be slightly better than the equivalent crafting gear. By the time you get to the end game, however, the whole paradigm tends to shift a little bit. The standard equation for endgame content, at least gear-wise, is the more effort you put into it, the better the gear you should get. This is seen through the idea of you hit level 50 in the Old Republic, you're going to be doing quests that'll give you decent gear. But the gear's only really good enough to get you into the 4-man flashpoints. You go into the 4-man flashpoints. If Rift, WoW, or any of these other games are an example, it'll take you about an hour. You interface with a few of your friends, you get good gear. You take that gear, you then spend a very great deal of time, several nights a week, 4 or 5 hours at a time, in these raids where you get the best items possible. This equation works, but it does leave out the crafters. My answer for this is to simply, again, make crafting a tier of its own in this sequence somewhere. The way I would set it up would be you have the endgame quest items, you then have the 4-man flashpoint items, you then have crafting items which are slightly better than the 4-man flashpoints, not hugely so, but slightly, and then you have the raid gear. A good example of this would be if you took a point system, which we know most games use to create items in the first place. So at level 50, say we have an arbitrary point value of 250 for basic level 50 items. You then have 4-man flashpoints, which say give 260 items. You make crafting items, say something like 265, and then you make the raids, say 275. This gives you an incentive to go to the auction house, buy the crafted items, creates a market for them, but doesn't prohibit the use of going from 4-man flashpoint straight to the raiding content. Makes it slightly easier transition, but not a required. I will say that I really like Larry Everett's idea that crafters should be creating the items that raiders need endgame. You take a raider, he goes into an instance or into a raid. Instead of getting the item drop off the boss, instead he gets a special item that he then has to have a crafter use to make him the special armor. I think this is a great idea as it brings crafters back into the equation of the social structure of the MMO. How that would be accomplished is a good question. I would probably do something like the boss drops a holocron or a attunement stone or something that is bind on pickup that he gets to keep. The crafter then gets a pattern to create an item that is not finished, but he crafts the item, he gives it to the raider who has the emblem or the holocron or whatever it is, and then they can combine the two to create the piece of gear so that the raider feels like he's accomplished and he's very important, and the crafter feels important because he's contributing to his guild, he's contributing to the social dynamic. He gets to be heroic because without him this wouldn't be possible. That being said, my feeling for crafting is that it is primarily a solo function. Not that other people can't be involved like we just discussed, but that the time equation goes into it's something that I can do by myself that I can then use to contribute, much the same way that alchemists in other games create, collect herbs, they then make potions they give to their guild. This would give you something that I can create armor that I can contribute to the guild. I can create weapons that I can contribute to the guild. So the feeling that the Old Republic is going for, this heroic feeling, is that I spend time gathering resources, I spend time gathering rare components, I go on these epic soloable quests that take a long time. It seems that they're going to be using kind of a Facebook game concept for crafting, where I set something to craft and it takes real world amount of time, I can log off while this is happening. That also contributes to this equation of the amount of time and effort that goes into something being the reward you get in response. Crafters are putting a lot of time and energy into creating the items. They're leveling the skills. They have this time sink where they're waiting for their abilities to level up. They're spending time collecting the items. And then in the end, they want to feel heroic. They want to do something important for the guild rather than just be a stepping stone. I don't mind the idea of certain reagents coming from raids or patterns coming from raids. I do, however, think that a crafter should not be required to be a raider. On those lines, I would say that if a pattern drops in a raid, it needs to be, say, bind on equip, to use the common terminology. So the raider can find this pattern, he can then bring it to a crafter, sell it to the crafter. This gives the crafter the ability to now go collect the resources and contribute back to the raider who now wants this piece of gear. Using an example from WoW, you had the beast that had the chance of, if you had Finkel Skinner, you go in, you kill the beast, you needed 10 people to do this, you kill him, you skin him, you get the rare skin off of him that everybody wanted to be contributed. This caused problems in WoW because everyone was fighting over, it took 10 of us to get this item, anybody should get a chance. That tends to screw up the dynamic because now the Skinner himself doesn't feel epic because he had to bring a bunch of his friends. Giving crafters the chance to go on epic quests or do, things that take a lot of time to get these resources, it gives them the opportunity to feel heroic in their own right and then to contribute as much as everybody else. That's it for now. I want to say thanks again for the opportunity to submit this. I hope it meets your criteria. I would love a chance to be a member of the Republic crew, the Game Breaker crew in general. If I can be of any help, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for producing such great content for us and bringing us the community to be involved with you as well. That being said, have a good one. Hope you have a good Memorial Day weekend.